in L.A. for the Clippers, at least. Over the weekend, they traded longtime point guard Patrick Beverley to the Grizzlies for Eric Bledsoe, who's headed back to the team that drafted him. Also going to Memphis in the trade, Rajon Rondo, Daniel Arturo. The deal saves the Clippers $30 million in luxury tax and creates an $8.3 million traded player exception that they will have a year to lose. Max Kellerman. Did the Clippers improve?
They did. And this was a good trade for the Clippers. You know how I say you don't want to trade, break a dollar into 4 quarters in the NBA, but you want to turn 4 quarters into a dollar? Mm-hmm. This is more like 2 quarters into a 50-cent piece. Eric Bledsoe can attack the basket. You give up Patrick Beverley, he's a defender. Rondo, high basketball IQ, but Rondo's getting long in the tooth. Like, he really has been in decline. And we saw it even like playoff Rondo didn't. When playoff Rondo didn't show up, that tells you he's just getting older. And Patrick Beverley was never a dynamic offensive player, but he could play some defense and, give you that fighting spirit. Well, Bledsoe does the same thing. He can do defensively and even maybe be more disruptive defensively sometimes based on his athletic ability. Than a guy, than what they've lost. And meantime, he's a player who can get to the basket and score. And they have shooting on the team, so Bledsoe's not a great shooter, but it's not as much of an issue. In fact, the spacing may even help him attacking the basket. This is the Clippers just got better because they got the best player in the deal.
Max, I disagree with you. It's not that I'm saying that Patrick Beverley is better than Eric Bledsoe, because I'm not. And I like Eric Bledsoe. He's not a scrub. He can play really strong as well, and he can put some points up, and I get that point. So technically speaking, you're right about him being a better player. But I got to tell you, I'd rather have Patrick Beverley come postseason. And last time I checked, the Clippers are trying to win a championship. This is what it is. The Los Angeles Clippers, a legitimate argument could be made, should be standing here today as NBA champions. If Kawhi Leonard had gone down near the end of the Utah series, a lot of people believe the Clippers would have beaten the Phoenix Suns. And I'm not ruling that out. Not with Kawhi and Paul George playing the way that he was playing. With Kawhi averaging 30 on 57% shooting from the field and 39% from three-point range before he went down. But then when you take into account, the energizer bunny that Patrick Beverley was, his ability to defend, and he actually was hitting some key, not in abundance, but he was hitting some key pivotal shots. End of the Utah series, obviously a couple of games against Phoenix. I just look at it from the standpoint that being the professional Hall of Fame pest that he is, somebody that doesn't just goes out there and plays, but really, really tries to get into your head. I don't see that in Eric Bledsoe. I see a guy that just goes out there and plays hard. He doesn't cheat you. He's got game. He can play. But he's not somebody that's an energizer bunny that provides that kind of spark. And I think that come postseason time, particularly when you look at the Western Conference, I think those kind of intangibles are things that you need to get you over the hump. And I don't see that being Eric Bledsoe, which is why he was gone from Milwaukee and why they had no problems trading him for Drew Holiday. And ultimately, he was saddled in New Orleans before, and ultimately Memphis before he ended up being back in Los Angeles with the Clippers. I think that Beverley is going. That anybody had a bad weekend. Please don't get me wrong. But when I looked at Zach Wilson, it was 6 of 9 passes for just 63 yards, but he was throwing like 5 different receivers. He was efficient on third down. He was in control. And I think for me, Max, is really, really simple in this regard. I'm thinking about what you're going to be asked to do for the most part during a game, and whether or not that's something you look smooth and comfortable and efficient doing, more so than anything else. I'm not trying to say that it was a lights out performance or, you saw a spectacular play from him here or there. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that what I saw from him is what I would expect from a starting quarterback on a Sunday afternoon. It wasn't anything heroic or anything like that. It was just somebody who looked smooth and comfortable and in complete control. And when I think about the 7 first downs or so that he helped accumulate, along with, 2 field goals, his efficiency on third down, the intermediate throws that he was throwing out there, those are the kind of things I take away when I'm looking at you and I'm saying, okay, if by some happenstance you ended up starting week 1, can you do those things, and can you do those things efficiently? And that's all I mean by that. I saw the spectacular, and I'll leave that to you. But for me personally, what I expect
from a starting quarterback, what I would be looking for, what I think they're going to be asked to do, and how I parlay that with what I actually saw, I found him to be most impressive.
Oh, you're getting influenced by Greeny? I mean, Greeny's a Jets fan.
I didn't watch Greeny. I didn't watch Greeny this morning. I usually do, but I missed it this morning.
Greeny about, 15 minutes ago said he wasn't going to hear on Get Up of anyone other than Zach, the answer being Zach Wilson. Because he's a Jets fan. Stephen A. asked me, I say it was Daniel Jones, and he didn't play because I'm a Giants fan. Daniel Jones, that's what. And Zach Wilson, based on what we were hearing out of camp and how he showed up, that's the greatest difference. He looked really good, and we were hearing he looked bad, and he's looked really good. But if the question is just, which it is, who had the most impressive rookie quarterback debut, it's Justin Fields, and this ain't that hard. They all look good to me, by the way. Every single one of them, I was like, wow, these all look like real quarterbacks. But Justin Fields, Stephen A. early on, backed up into his own territory. They don't really call much. They're super conservative. He doesn't do anything. That's fine. Then they take the handcuffs off. Oh, my God. And I thought after watching Zach Wilson tape, I thought, you know what? Yeah, you can draft him ahead of Justin Fields. But I was very high on Justin Fields, so I get Zach Wilson's talent. But Justin Fields was just making it happen with his arm, with his legs, with his brain. Remember that? Like, what about decision making? Was he taking sacks? Was he taking big hits? He was using his legs to get out of the way, to pick up yards. He's keeping his eyes downfield, completing great throws one after another. This is the modern quarterback. The guy who, it's not just enough to manage the game and have a good enough arm to make all the throws. Can you also make it happen? This is a guy who's going to be able to execute the game plan plus in a weekend where I was really blown away by the talent of all these young quarterbacks. Even the second-year quarterbacks. I thought, boy, there's a lot to like there. There's a lot to like there. But Justin Fields was the star of the weekend. He was the guy who stood out as, I think he's going to be ready to take the ball week one and have immediate success.
First of all, I'm not sure about that. I believe in Justin Fields, and I know he's the future of the Chicago Bears, and props to them for ultimately grabbing him. And Dalton's not long for that job, fair enough. And it's good to see how Dalton was supportive of him over the weekend. That was a good thing to see. That's class on his part from a veteran quarterback. Having said all of that, I will remind you that when we looked at Zach Wilson, he converted all three of his third down conversions, a 9-yard, a 16-yard pass to Corey Davis and Keelan Cole. I mean, I looked at that. I looked at a 3rd and 14 that he converted as well. Again, these are the kind of things that you're looking at. When Justin Fields threw that one touchdown pass, that brother was so wide open that he threw it to. I mean, my Lord, he could have sat up there and ordered lunch, sat back and ate. You know what I'm saying? Went to the bathroom, came back out before catching the damn pass. That's how open he was, okay? So I look at it from that perspective. Again, I'm paying attention to who your competition is, the level of the rest that you're under at a particular moment in time. I'm thinking about the fact that you sit up there and you're doing the kind of things that they're going to ask of you to do come regular season time. That's what I saw from Zach Wilson. I thought that Justin Fields, even though he definitely was bright, even though he started off slow, came on strong as the game waned and what have you. I just look at Zach Wilson and I say, hey, when I think about a week one starting quarterback, that's what I expect to see. And that's what I saw from Zach Wilson. And that's all I'm saying. He certainly didn't have the throw that Trey Lance had. He didn't have the footwork that Justin Fields displayed. But dropping back to pass in that pocket, you sat up there and said to yourself, this was contradicting what we were seeing in the headlines leading up to that first preseason game, what they were saying about Zach Wilson. And I was impressed.
Did. And also, you could just say the eyeball test. When he threw the ball, was there something extra on it? Was there a little extra mustard? Did he have that
in
arm
the middle of the field,
talent?
in between the numbers?
No doubt.
So
Zach Wilson's the real deal to me. He showed arm talent. I agree with all that. But let's put it this way. If we knew nothing about these guys coming in, and we watched this weekend and said, who do you think the number one overall pick was? I'd say Justin Fields.
Well, let me say this to you. Let me counter that,
and he's going to start.
Let me counter that to get back to a point. If you recall, we didn't know much about Wilson. at all.
No, that's right.
You came on the show and you acknowledged you had to go back and look him up because you're like, who is this guy that they're talking about? I haven't seen him. We're not watching BYU games or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's not what we're doing. We didn't see him, okay? So essentially, but we saw Justin Fields in the Big Ten. We saw Justin Fields leading Ohio State. We saw enough heroics from him over the season and over the last 2 years or so where we said, yo, this brother